Welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 189, The Power of Connection. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host, and I'm here this morning in 818 Studios with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 189 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. I hope that you are doing well. Hope that you had an amazing weekend, and I welcome you to the final week of Actually, no, I guess this is the last day of January, and we're about to start February.
Hard to believe. It is solidly 2022, right? So I kind of want to say, where are you with New Year's resolutions?
I got to tell you, it's been tough for me because the holidays kind of usually I ease off of my miracle morning. I ease off
I know, right?
my eating and everything, and so it's been kind of tough to slip back into that. Tougher than usual, and I think I don't know if it's the continuing kind of weight of the COVID, the pandemic. We're now 2 years into this, and
hard to believe.
Absolutely no longer new, right? There's no COVID hobby or anything, and so it's been tough for me to kind of get back into all of that. But I am of the belief that that change is right around the corner, and I'm ready to recommit.
Well, and remember, friends, we have resources if you need them for your journey, Dave. And I've been actually staying right on track. I don't know. I've been doing this morning thing right now so long. If I don't do it, it feels too weird. I can't not do it. It is at this point, I'll take a week off if I'm really guided to. But the last time I did, I think was, a year ago. And that was just a few days I took from doing the journaling.
Yeah, and I think it's not that I'm still getting up. It's just I think I kind of shut off my brain after December, and December got wound up so tight and really threw me off of my normal routine. And so I'm still getting up, but I'm kind of behind or found myself behind in some of my work. And so when I get up, at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, I think, okay, I can either spend like the next hour, 15 minutes, doing my exercise and all that stuff, or I can take a super quick shower and get into the studio and get to work. And but exercise, I never have regretted doing my whole miracle morning routine, but I've absolutely regretted not doing it. And I just need to keep telling myself that.
Exactly. Well, and remember, you're worth that for yourself. You give a lot of yourself to a lot of other people.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think for all of us, that's, for me anyway, particularly in my journey, it's a self-love piece for me to do my journey every morning, because I know I feel better than walking through the world. So it's not like I can't do it, but it's the way I feel connected. And that's exactly what today's about. And, every morning, part of my practice, the first thing I write is, what is my I am for the day? And if I've had a lot going on, it's interesting because lately I've noticed a little bit of a theme over the last month, and my word has been connected. I am connected. And then I just sit with that and ponder what that means, because my I am is what takes me throughout the whole day. My I am is what decides really the course of my thoughts and connections. And it's like me asking, okay, Spirit, what divine energy is being asked of me today? Like, what divine energy will help me, in other words, go through my day as a soul on purpose, as a soul that is centered in love, that is not being controlled by my emotions. And that word connected for me is, there's a lot there. For me, that word connected, and that was today's word, as a matter of fact, is that word for me means connection to myself, connection to God, connection to others, and even connection to the earth. Right? Connection to myself, connection to God, connection to others, and connection to the earth. And the idea, as I write that I am connected, is that as I feel connected, because frankly, I always am. But if we were in church, I'd say, raise your hand if any time this last week you felt disconnected, and all hands would go up,
Yes.
guaranteed.
Mine's up.
Yeah, because as we've talked about, we've already even, discussed the pandemic. And in thinking about that, the number one issue I see in the entire pandemic is the disconnection. People, yes, many have died from COVID, and that is a tragedy of the pandemic. The other tragedy is the depression and lack of connection, and the suicide rate that we see basically climbing every day. Suicide happens when people feel there's no purpose and no connection. There's no connection to others, no connection to purpose or self, no connection to God. You cannot be connected to God and self and others in the earth and want to commit suicide.
Yeah.
I think of connection as the great comforter. Yeah. We often say gratitude is the great multiplier, right? And for me, connection is the great comforter. Connection is the great comforter. So, and I've had quite a journey with this. Anyone who has studied deeply their birth experience or psychology knows that how we experience our birth and the short moments after, as we're coming into the world, is a great indicator of things we're going to deal with our whole life. And in my birth story, I was born prematurely. And the reason this is impactful is that I was put in an incubator for 3 days, and my mother couldn't touch me. And this was before the time, that we understood the importance of touch and connection as a part of not only surviving, but thriving. Now there are volunteers in hospitals, and all they do is go hold babies. They hold the babies. So in my journey, I can remember even now being a baby and wanting to touch my mother, but I couldn't. And so connection for me is very, very important. And so for you, think about how life feels when you feel connected. It means you're loved. It means your needs will be provided for. Yes. It means there's support for your journey. There is, this internal understanding that you're part of a larger whole. So this is why we're taking time to talk about connection today, the power of connection. Because when we feel connected, we have a sense of wholeness. And I will say holiness as well. It's all through the scriptures that even in Genesis, that everything that's here is for our use, including the earth itself. This is the very beginning of the Bible. The animals, the plants, this is all here for us. In other words, but not to dominate, but to care for. Well, to care for something means you're connected to it. And then when we were all connected to the land, there was a very different living experience than we now have. Because we knew the land was the thing keeping us alive. And now we think it's what? I don't know. Money and fashion. Who you know, how much money you have. So it's good to pause on these things and think about, how do we feel connected? You know, we feel connected through, some of us, through social media. It's why social media took off, because there's such this sense of disconnect that, you know, we reach out to other people. And sometimes those connections are really a false sense of connection. And when they don't last, it's even more damaging to the psyche. I had a sibling one time who was in a needy place emotionally, and somebody reached out to them through social media and was really manipulating their emotions. It took a little bit, and finally it was like, oh, this is a scam. But, you know, it felt so good to be loved. It felt so good to be connected. So when we are not getting our connection through, through our spiritual work, if we're not getting our connection through some kind of community where we feel loved and supported, we go outside and get all these false connections. You know, when people go drink in bars, the reason they're drinking in bars is because they're not feeling connected. And they have to, you know, figure out a way to get that need met. So they tell bad jokes and laugh aloud and drink so their quote unquote true self can come out. And what we're seeing is a false sense of connection. Right? So us being connected, feeling connected to God, to self, to others, excuse me, and even the earth is life-changing. And, you know, it's hard at times, if we've been taught that God is so far off, to feel connected to God. I would say most of us go through life on a daily basis feeling fairly alone. So think about that. When is the last time you felt connected? I'm going to just give you a little space to think about that for a minute. When is the last time you felt connected? Another false way we connect is through the activity of internet porn, of sexual acting out. This is another way, a very false way of feeling connected, because it doesn't last. I was thinking somebody might be saying, well, how do you know when it's real? When it lasts. The thing is, most of us are so desperate for connection that we'll take a false version just to ease the pain a bit. You know, so when we drink, when we use, when we are have any addictive behaviors, the reason we do that, it gives us a break from this feeling of desperation and disconnect. So, you know, people have told me now that recently that, basically every adult man watches porn every day because it's available on the internet. Well, I know not every man does, but I know it's quite common. As a matter of fact, this great musician, Wynton Marsalis, he's a world-renowned musician, was at an event one time in Chautauqua, New York. And I'm going to be going to Chautauqua this summer, I think. But anyway, at a performance, you know, he does like a little lesson. He was talking about the problem of internet porn in colleges, that kids are in class. Instead of listening to the teacher, they're watching porn right next to each other in class. So, you know, a decade ago, nobody would have imagined this as an issue.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I can't speak for like a Full Sail, but I know back in Memphis, I was discipling and mentoring young men, and it was the single biggest issue at
It is.
a Christian college,
Oh,
which
well,
came
that doesn't matter.
with its own bag of
Right.
like shame and guilt and
Of
everything.
course. Yes.
And it was beyond like drinking, beyond like relationship issues,
Oh, yes.
beyond like piracy of sound files and everything. Pornography was hands down the biggest issue that I worked, and I've walked through my own
Yes,
issues
exactly.
with,
I remember you
issues
sharing
with
that.
pornography, and so it is so pervasive, so easily obtainable. It's as findable, and I know it's not just a guy issue. I mean, I think it's
No.
men and women, but
It is.
it's as findable as like finding a car battery or going shopping or checking out a YouTube.
It's easier to find than a car battery, actually.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, and so the biggest issue I dealt with.
Well, and there's the issue of kids finding it on parents' phones. There's all kinds of ways too that the age in which kids are more aware of it, has gotten younger and younger, and it's out picturing in sexual violence in dating situations because
it creates warped
teens,
expectations of what relationships should be and what sexual encounters should look like and what intimacy looks like.
Right, and what is acceptable. When you're a prepubescent teen and you see sexual violence acted out, you think that's what sexual connection is.
Right, whether consensual or not in that video, it creates a distortion field of what is considered normal. I don't want to say the word normal because I'm not necessarily looking to like project
No. I understand that. I understand that. Yeah,
I remember one of my earliest memories is being a kid. I must have been like 9 and found like a dirty magazine,
right?
And it was like holding hot, the hottest of potatoes, and it was such like a big taboo thing.
Yes.
But we've come a long way since like 1980, whatever, and so now it's just completely desensitized. And
and there are also those, and I didn't know we were going to talk about porn today, but I just landed. I landed there. No, I think it's important because I don't hear any spiritual leaders talking about it, what I've heard in the last few years is that people say, oh, it's a sex trade and it's been around since blah, blah, blah. Well, just because it's been around, doesn't make it a good thing. So have the measles. I mean, just because something has existed doesn't mean it's good. And I can tell you from counseling people in that trade, both men and women, the damage that it does to those souls. And so if you're watching it, if you are buying it, if you are participating in it, you are victimizing over and over and over again people that are so desperate they feel they have no other option than to sell their bodies. So I know from the ministerial end, the pastoral end, I know it from being a rape advocate. I worked with an organization in Kansas City, and men and women who are in that are victimized every single day. So you say it's a choice? No one does that because they have other options. They go into that because there is no other option.
And it seems like such a victimless crime, if you will. You're in your privacy bathroom or whatever, doing your thing, and you seem like it's just between me and my phone, but that's just not true. The way I explained it to my guys were, that God uses intimacy to create a connection between souls. Mm-hmm. And so when you engage into a sexual encounter, that's one of the most intimate things that you could share with a person. And so that's knitting your souls together, which is why breakups and everything after sexual activity is so painful. Well, when you're looking at pornography, your soul is trying to create this intimacy bond with just pictures or with
something
video.
Fake.
And so your soul is just putting out this all this connection and finding nothing. And so it's like just kind of like hitting a wall.
Right.
And that just imagine your soul just being fingers reaching out, and just eventually those just get numb and warped and gnarled and so when a relationship comes along, then you're so, again, this is how I explained it to my guys. You're just so I don't know. The picture that's coming to mind is just like kind of just kind of warped, gnarled hands that that you have to work to I'm trying to say this in a way that makes sense on a podcast. You're trying to like to get to where you can have those connections with a person that your soul really needs to be with, as opposed to pictures. Does any of that make sense at all?
Yes. Yeah. Well, what I believe you're trying to say, and then we'll go to the break, is that when we have a false connection for so long and a real connection shows up, we often don't know what to do, and it takes time and energy and patience from the other partner to to work with you on that. So what we're saying, friends, is that real connection is what we all seek. And what our world says and what most of us are doing is fake connection, right? So we'll be back in just a few moments, right after these brief messages. Hello, my name is Cynthia Alice Anderson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Thank you for joining me today. I am also the senior minister at Unity North Tampa, and in January, both my worlds are coming together in a powerful way. I'm going to be doing a Sunday morning series and Monday evening class on my book, Prosperity for You. Friends, I love to help people start the year off right by setting good sacred intentions and remembering what a powerful co-creator they are. We are going to be studying my book, this 4-week intensive series, to remind ourselves that as we change our thoughts, we change our world, and that in fact, we have the power to bring more good, more money, more love, more peace even, into our lives and in the world. Prosperity for You begins on Monday, January 10th. And to register for that course, please go to my website, CynthiaAliceAnderson.com. Click on the Classes and Retreats tab, and you will be able to go and book that class where it says Book Now. As you book now, you'll receive all the information you need to join us on Monday, January 10th at 7 p.m. I also hope to see you, or would love to have you watch online at Unity North Tampa on Sunday morning, January 9th at 11 a.m. I'm so thrilled to be bringing you this course, dear friend, and am happy to have you join us online or in person. The course on January 10th is online only. Go to CynthiaAliceAnderson.com for more information and to register for Prosperity for You, and I will see you in person at Unity North Tampa on Sunday, January 9th. Thank you so much for being with me today, dear friend, and blessings on the journey. And welcome back. I'm so glad you're with us, and thanks for hanging in there. I hope you found this conversation interesting. Connection is something we all seek. Connection is necessary, not only to survive, but to thrive. And I want to give you some tools, at least some things to think about, as we continue this, what many of us are calling the new normal. How are we feeling connected in the midst of a time when, you're scared to go to a restaurant or, take off a mask so you don't see, expressions except for via Zoom and, stuff like that. So we are in a very different time that none of us really have been in before. And it's a real interesting time. It's one of the reasons I'm doing a class right now called Spiritual Roadmap. It's like we need signposts and guides to help us on this journey, because I feel at times right now like we're creating the map and doing the journey all in one, because it's hard to navigate through right now. When we're feeling this extreme disconnection and we feel like to connect is, potentially harmful, many people are choosing connection over health, over physical health. I know of some very large gatherings, and, people have left ill. And, it's been tough as a spiritual leader to try to navigate through this, knowing how badly people need their spiritual connection, and so wanting to create as safe a situation as possible. So what we know, though, friends, and I want you to really, my hope for you, I shouldn't say I want you to, my hope is that, you will find ways to feel connected. And I want to share one with you that really means the world to me. And it's something I don't talk about often. And my time outside every day is the way I know I'm connected. And even though I walk my dog every day, that's great. And I love that. But it's really when I go out at night and I look up at the moon, or I look at the stars, and I just am still. I don't say anything. I just breathe. And when I do that, I feel connected. I don't need 100 likes on Facebook. It's the stars, it's the moon, it's the clouds as they surround the moon and then move off. It's looking at the stars and going, oh, is that a comet? Oh, no, it's an airplane. It's funny. Oh. When I was a kid, we had this, one of the best memories of my childhood was we lived in a very large home that my parents built, and we were constantly adding on to because there were always more kids and grandkids coming back. But there was a bridge, we called it the breezeway, that attached our large home to a small apartment I helped my dad build in the back. And on that breezeway, often in the summer, I would sleep out there. And, it wasn't fancy. It was on a little chaise. What do you call those? A chaise lounge for outside?
Yeah, a chaise. Yeah, chaise.
Chaise. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, those lounges that mostly are by the pool, right?
Right.
And this is in the old days where there were just those things that like had little strips across. It was nothing, and it made that noise every time you moved it up and down. But I would just lay on one of those, and I would go to sleep every night in the summer looking at the stars. This became a safe haven for me. Because of my birth experience, of course, I didn't know this consciously when I was like 11 or 12, but my birth experience was so traumatic, and and there's a lot about it I didn't share. I couldn't breathe and all these other things. So I felt largely, even though I was part of this big family, I often felt disconnected. Now, maybe every kid feels that way, but I just discovered as I, did more personal development that, as I could remember my birth experience, then I learned about the research of how much that impacts. So that looking at the stars, that just being there. And then the first thing I wake up to was a bird singing, or a mist that was over the grass, or the sunshine. That was just a beautiful, beautiful connection that made me feel connected to everything. It was like, oh, another day. So simple. So simple. So if you haven't in a while just walked outside and just felt no phone, no computer, not talking to anybody, no earbuds, just be outside and see if that doesn't help you feel connected. Because think about, the earth gives us everything for free that we need. Air to breathe, right? The sunshine on our face can be a moment of personal awareness, a moment of God awareness, simply being outside. But you have to unplug from everything else if you really want to feel connected. Because I love a good playlist. I love listening to stuff. I love certain shows and all that. But none of that makes me feel connected in the way I feel when I am outside with nothing and feel a breeze on my face. And there's nothing like a Central Florida breeze. It feels a very specific way. I've noticed it since I was 7 or 8 years old. We'd be driving down to Florida from Georgia, and I'd open the window and go, it's a Central Florida breeze. And my mom would go, what? I said, oh, Mom, nothing smells like and feels like Florida. And she said, you're right, honey, because when she was a kid, her parents owned a seasonal restaurant down in Florida, and they would come down actually to Tarpon Springs, which is interesting. So for me, that time outside, and recently I realized that I've been outside with my dog so much, which I love to do, and he loves big adventures, and we love big adventures together, that I have not given myself enough time alone in these settings. And I love going with a friend as well, because it's nice to be with other people that can really take in that experience as well. You know, I have a friend who's a big fisherman, and for him, that's his reconnect to everything. Just being on the water. You know, he's a fly fisherman, and there's a real art to fly fishing. It's really, really amazing. The other, so think about that. Maybe, how could you maybe put some of that, into your life? And what's so funny now is everybody has something to sell, a new program, a new thing. Friends, this is free. And it's real. And it's even scriptural. This is all here for you. And as you experience it, my sense is you will feel connected. And when I was a kid, I was part of a Girl Scout troop that my mom led. And most of the girls who went with me on some of the camping trips, like one time we did a big rafting trip, which, God bless my mom. That was a risk and a half. Of course, she's the only one who fell out of the boat. That was the second time I saved her life. But anyway, she was such an adventurer. But most of these girls had never been outside for any length of time. Like they'd never been camping at all. We camped all the time. So it was so outside of my awareness. And, they were scared of bugs. Well, by the end of the trip, they couldn't wait to come back because they felt connected at the campfire. They felt connected on the river. They loved touching their feet on the earth. They loved braiding each other's hair. They loved, and all that was connection to earth, connection to God, connection to each other, and certainly connection to self, because they realized they could do it. They did have the ability to make it 2 nights in a tent. If you've only ever lived in a house, with all the, what do you call them? The comforts of home with hair dryers and makeup and all those things that young girls, many young girls like, I should say. This was a major new thing in their lives, and they felt connected. It's time to go again. Well, they were the first ones signing up saying, let's go. The other thing that I sometimes do, and there were, I love going and having adventures in a variety of state parks and areas. And over the years, if I've had, some emotional things I was working through, I just go sit at the base of a tree until I feel better. And sometimes what I do is I'll sit at the base of the tree and imagine all the emotional energy kind of leaking out, of my fingers and toes and down into the ground. And I'll just, sit there. And then what is so amazing is after I do this big release of my feelings and my emotions, and, if there's confusion, I just release it all. After a few minutes, I feel this energy coming back in to my body, and it's right from the earth as well. So it's like the earth is there to help us. And of course, we're to help it as well. I say it, her as well. When the indigenous peoples of the Americas called Earth Mother Earth, it wasn't a metaphor. It wasn't a metaphor because the earth gives us everything we need. That's what any good mother would do. And so here we are on this, spinning planet, going around so connected that we forget to connect with the earth, which of course is God, which of course is connecting to self. And then that helps us connect with others as well. We talk so much about God connection. We talk so much about self-work and, gratitude. All that involves other people. Connection to earth is mostly, a solitary journey where we just become still and move into a different awareness. There was this time, this is several years ago now, and I was in the car and in a hurry to church, and I was so happy I was going to be there early. I had this whole big plan, and I got up to the railroad track, and that was not in my plan because here comes the rail thing down, and the train is going by, and it's one of those real long trains. I was starting to get frustrated, and I was like, well, I can either fight this train coming or I can be in the moment. And so I rolled down the windows, and all of a sudden I saw the palm trees going in the breeze, and I heard this sound that only palm trees make. It's like, shh, and even though the train was racing by, as I sat there and I watched the wind in the trees and I heard the sound, I just closed my eyes for a moment. And all of a sudden, I was connected, and God was there. And it was the breeze, it was the trees, it was the awareness that connection was even possible that got me there. I realized I was fighting the moment, I was wanting to do a certain thing. All this is egoic. All this is of the mind. And when I could just be still, because friends, all that anger was not going to move the train. So if I can't move the train, what can I do? Connect, connect, connect. And of course, the day at church was fabulous. Why? Because I felt connected. Even though I'd done my meditation and all that, this was a different kind of awareness. It was like, oh, I'm connected to everything right here, sitting at the train tracks. I'm having a God experience. I don't have to wait till I get to church. It's right here. Mm-hmm. There is something very spiritual, very godly about watching the wind. Right now, you could probably see, people have told me when they watch on YouTube that they can see sometimes the palm tree in the reflection on my board behind me. It's blowing right now, and there's a big oak tree out here, and I see the moss being blown in the breeze. See, for me, that's God. For me, that's understanding that even though that breeze is blowing, you know what? Those trees are not coming down. There's something divine that's happening right there. And if I can just move into that awareness, I mean, I know you're feeling and sensing there's a different energy that comes in. It's a feeling of connection. It's like, yeah, you know what? All is well. When I'm feeling connected, there's no disturbance in the force. When I'm feeling connected, I don't need people to be other than what they are. I make good decisions based on my connection with God and with all things. I don't have to fight what is. I can simply be. So my hope for you, friend, is that you will have every single day real connection, whether it's God, self, others, earth, whatever that connection is for you. My hope is that you will be able to connect with what matters most and not go to all these false connections, because what you really want is God. What you really want is connection. So I hope and pray for you in your journey that as you seek connection, you will find it. The scriptures say it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And this is my hope for you as you move forward on your journey. So thank you, friend, for joining us today. It is always our pleasure and blessing to be with you and support you. So we'll see you next week, and blessings on the journey, dear friend.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2022 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.